Mike's on mute. Oops. Once we're going to go back to another episode of Go Talk the Markets, powered by Podex, fueled by Go Fuel. For the first time in God knows how long, Justin Marville of the hashtag #thisJUSTin Sports Show is back on the show. How's it been, bro? How has it been?
It has been way, way, way too long. Like, I've seen the comments in your section have been begging, "Where's Justin?" And the Devin. No, that didn't happen. But no one did that. But in my mind, I felt, that's what they've been doing, and definitely it's been too long that you haven't been on my show. I'm like, this is not good enough. So the moment that you say you have any availability, I'm like, it's not talking Green Bay, so it's a good time to come on the show.
There's no more Green Bay Packers talk on this show. The days of talking Green Bay Packers are done until the offseason, unless they turn it around, which won't happen. So we're done talking Packers on this show. What we are going to do, though, is we are going to talk about a division that has been the laughingstock of the NFL for a while now. But as we stand right now, heading into Week 9, if you don't include Philly's win against the Texans last night, they are a combined 23-8, which is the best record for a division in the NFL this season by a country mile. We're talking about the NFC East. The Eagles are 8-0, 8-0. The Cowboys and the Giants are 6-2, and the Commanders are 4-4. I don't think anyone saw this coming. Does this make the NFC East, at least for this season, the best division in football?
Right, no, maybe, but no, it's not the best division in football. Like, do they have the best team in football? Yes, because the Eagles right now, they're playing the best football. And by roster, you have to say this side of Buffalo, they have the deepest roster in football. There's no doubt about that. Is Dallas a good team? I told you they are really a good team. The funny thing is, their offense is the worst part of this football team. When you look at their special teams units, like they find ways to score and set up good field position. And then we don't have to talk about how elite this defense. Yes, we do. This defense is really elite. Like, you're talking about playmakers on every level, like at the front, DeMarcus Lawrence. The best player in football that's not a quarterback right now is Micah Parsons. I don't think there's up for conversation anymore. Like, whether he's coming off the edge as an edge rusher, up the middle as a run stuffer, he can cover as a cover linebacker. And I've even heard in practices that this dude can cut and drop back and cover some slot receivers. Well, maybe not. But then behind him, as much as the interceptions are down, you could argue that Trayvon Diggs is actually a better cover corner than it was last season. This is an elite defense led by an elite coach in Dan Quinn. Yeah, those are two good football teams. And if Nick Sirianni is my 1B as coach of the year, my 1A has to be the head coach of the New York Giants in Brian Daboll. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. No, this is where I pause about talking about the best division in football, because I am not a believer in the New York Giants. I am a believer in Brian Daboll and covering up the nonsense that is the New York Giants. Like, you have a quarterback who, I think, if stats are still correct up to this week, has the fewest passes or passing yards and passing attempts in the fourth quarter in Daniel Jones. But the offensive scheme is so catered towards running the football and hiding his deficiencies that you are not aware of how bad Daniel Jones really is, because we also have the comeback player of the year in Saquon Barkley on this team. This running attack with absolutely no wide receiver talent at all, like none. Like, every player they brought in who they thought would be a wide receiver of note has disappointed and failed. So it is a bunch of gimmicks. Like, the New York Giants, they're running football. Make no mistake, and I think he may have said it on your show, but he definitely came on mine and said it. JT has also talked about the job that Wink Martindale has come in and done on the defensive side of football, and that's why we see the Baltimore Ravens have become so bad and why the New York Giants are so good at that. So, like, we can't discredit how good of a defense that the New York Giants are, but in terms of that offense, like it is Saquon Barkley, that offensive line, and nothing else. Then we get the Commanders. No, it sounds bad. I'm talking badly about two teams that beat us and beat us handily, but at the end of the day, like the Carson Wentz experiment, like I hope by now all the NFL teams watching are prepared to understand Carson Wentz is not a starting quarterback in this league, or at least he is not a starting quarterback that is going to win you a division or get you into the playoffs. I hope we understand that. Again, Ron Rivera is a top coach, but I don't believe at some point the sky is going to start falling again, and the Washington Commanders will indeed become the lottery team that we expect them to. I will see that the coaching job by Ron Rivera has been nothing short of marvelous, considering not just what he has to work with, but we all know about the situation with the ownership and the whole fiasco about Dan Snyder and his wife threatening to expose league commissioner Roger Goodell, expose Jerry Jones, and saying they don't want to touch him and they shouldn't come after him, or else. Now they're investigating the whole financial improprieties. And to the point now we've shifted gears and heard that they are looking to sell the team. So the job that Ron Rivera has done in Washington is nothing short of spectacular. This is a better division than we thought. They have two good teams, the best team in football, the Philadelphia Eagles, a solid playoff contender in the Dallas Cowboys. But when you look at like division, that's true. Like, what other divisions are there? There is the NFC East. I will give them that. There is the NFC East. But when you look at it, right now you have to say that the NFC East is actually the best division in football, but you don't expect that to hold up for the rest of the season.
That's fair. I mean, we're talking about a division it's the only division in football where every team has won a Super Bowl. The Eagles made that happen a couple of years ago. I think this is also the winningest division in football, which is ironic given how they've looked over the last few years. Commanders aside, right? I think when you look at, and even if you want to include the Commanders, because they're 4-4, when you look at this division from top to bottom, this isn't a bad division this season. You got the best team in football in the Philadelphia Eagles. You have a team in the Dallas Cowboys who they just continue to do what they've been doing over the last 8 weeks, which is play good football instead of their own way. Could be contenders for a Super Bowl this year, I think. And I've been saying that since the offseason. And it pains me to say that, but I mean, that's the truth of the matter. And they've been looking as such. The Giants, I get it, right? It's the Giants, and that's not a good football team. And they've won games they shouldn't have won, and they have looked good doing so. I wouldn't say it's a tough loss, but a loss to the Seahawks this past week stings a bit for sure heading into the bye. I know, but this is a division that right now, if the playoffs start tomorrow, has 3 teams in the playoffs, which of all the divisions I think we looked at going into the season of teams who could put 3 in, this was the furthest division from the list. Like we all were like, oh yeah, AFC West might even put all 4 in, right? But at least 3. I think we kind of all expected that.
And then the furthest was the AFC South. But then the NFC East is right.
Okay, sure. When you've got the AFC South, absolutely right. But the NFC East is right down there with you. Like you're not thinking the AFC East. And here's the thing: given how bad the Bucs have looked, given how bad the Rams have looked, given how bad our Packers have looked, like it becomes more and more likely as the weeks go on that we could see 3 teams from this division in the playoff. We could see, because the NFC West hasn't been looking that hot, the AFC South hasn't been looking that hot, and it looks like the only team from our division that's going to make the playoffs is the Vikings. We could see all 4 teams in this division in the playoffs.
I'll pump the brakes and say
mathematically a stretch. And it's 3 for sure. It's mathematically a stretch. I don't think I do. If I had to put money on it right now, I'd say it wouldn't happen. But like the NFC North is not a good division outside of the Vikings this season. The AFC South has been terrible, but the Bucs, I think we all expect are going to win the division because they're the Bucs and because the Saints suck and the Panthers suck and the Falcons, despite being 4-4, aren't a good football team. And look at the NFC West. I mean, I honestly don't expect the Seahawks to be able to keep this up, and I don't think they'll be a playoff team. I think the 49ers are getting healthy at the right time, and they're getting hot, and I think the 49ers will eventually win this division. The Rams are cooked, and the Cardinals are the Cardinals. So, like, of course, it's much more easier to say there's going to be 3. But if everything holds true right now, I think we could see a scenario where the Commanders could sneak their way into the playoffs. I don't think they will, but it is at least at this point, because of how close it is on the back end of the playoff picture, it is a possibility that maybe all 4 teams from this division make the playoffs. I wouldn't bet on it, but right now it's possible. And what a world it would be if the Commanders, Giants, Eagles, and Cowboys are all playoff teams come January. It's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous thing to even think about.
The only thing I'll tell you, I don't see that happening. And weirdly enough, I don't want to buy what Seattle is selling, but I have to. I'm
not buying what Seattle is selling. I am so. I don't know. Look, I don't know if I know you follow me on Twitter, obviously, but I don't know if you guys have. There's not many people out here that follow me on Twitter. I am so sick. Look, I love him. He's fantastic. He is great. He is a great human being. He is a good person to talk ball with. He is an incredible friend. He's amazing. I am so sick of going back and forth with Stevie A. Smith about the Seattle Seahawks. I am. I really am. I am sick of seeing the Seattle Seahawks on my timeline. Because there's the thing. The only reason why the Seattle Seahawks are on my timeline is because of Stevie A. Smith. I get it. When you are a fan of a football team that's supposed to suck and they don't suck, you want to bask in the glory of the goodness. I get it, right? When you're a fan of a football team that's supposed to be good and they're not good, you want to stay as far away from them as possible. I am living that right now. I get that the Seahawks are 5-3 and they were supposed to be one of the worst teams in football, but can we relax on the Seattle Seahawks? The Seattle Seahawks are not going anywhere.
You are fortunate, right, that you were not put. So a couple years ago, when it was first starting this podcast, a bunch of podcasters threw me and Stevie A. Smith in this group, and that's how I first met him. And you are fortunate because every single day from Stevie A. Smith, I have to see 2 posts. Not 1, but 2 posts. 2 posts today saying, is this Seattle Seahawks a shoe-in for Defensive Player of the Year? Is this one a shoe-in for Comeback Player of the Year? Is this one going to be Coach of the Year? Is it? I'm like, oh my God, Stevie, enough. Enough about your Seahawks. I don't want to hear anymore.
I think the other day he said that they've got the Coach of the Year, the Executive of the Year, the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Like, oh, look, I get it.
The breaks. You do not have the Coach of the Year. Brian Dable cannot coach another game, and I think we're going to all gift wrap that and give it to Brian Dable.
Brian Dable is going to be the Coach of the Year this year. I think the only other person that could take it from him is Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota.
You do not have the Defensive Rookie of the Year because Sauce Gardner does not play for you. And Sauce Gardner has that also wrapped up. Like, pump the brakes, Steezy. Just calm down.
So, Howie Roseman won Executive of the Year when he traded for A.J. Brown on draft night for a bag of chips. Doubled down on it when he signed James Bradbury. Tripled down on it when he traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And just about locked it up when he – what did he just trade for the other day? Robert Quinn. Thank you. So, no, you don't have the Executive of the Year in Seattle either. Like, let's
calm down. I mean, I like what your Seahawks are doing. I'm happy for the Cinderella story, but
we all love a good Cinderella story. We can all appreciate a good Cinderella story. But here's the thing. When you look at the NFC West specifically, since we're here now, like, okay, the Cardinals are nothing, and the Rams have been in shambles. This is still the 49ers division to lose. They're only a game behind. You are still, like the pressure's on Seattle because Seattle's 5-3, San Francisco's 4-4. But if these 2 teams finish with the same record, guess who's winning the division? San Francisco. Why? Because as it stands right now, they hold the tiebreaker over Seattle because they beat Seattle a couple weeks ago, 27-7. So, like, Seattle, it's not looking good. Like, it's looking good, but it's not a lock city right now for Seattle to win this division. And I get it. Geno's playing incredible. You're not rocking with Geno for the next 3 to 4 or 5 years. Every member of the Seattle Seahawks front office should be fired if come draft day in April, they're not drafting a quarterback if there is one available for them to draft on the draft board. I don't care how great Geno Smith has been playing. He is not a franchise quarterback. If he was a franchise quarterback, we would have been seeing Geno Smith play a lot more football than what we have seen him play.
I'm going to tell you, no, I've seen enough football to see teams make the mistake of thinking a career resurgence of a quarterback is testament to them keeping a franchise quarterback, and it can go on and on. I saw my cousin Vinny, and I mean Vinny Testaverde, in his late resurgence with the Jets, and everyone's, oh, yes, let's ride with this. And I'm like, eventually the wheels fall off. Huh? And, you get older, you understand the position a lot better. You understand the game slows down. but that doesn't mean that a 1 or 2 years that you invest heavily. We've seen this situation with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like you just have to understand and know what you're seeing in front of you. And right now, there's a hot streak. Gino probably understands football, having sat behind a number of quarterbacks for the last 5 or 6 years, and that's good. And I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. I thought highly when he came out of West Virginia when he came out, and I thought highly of Gino. It was unfortunate he couldn't make it land in New York, either place. And then I'm happy to see his resurgence. But again, you have to pump the brakes and know what is in front of you. And I'm not saying don't ride the wheels till they fall off and get into the playoffs with this. I use that. But like you're saying, when draft night comes, and I'm not saying to overstretch for a quarterback, but if you have a decent one or a decent pick and one is there that you think matches the position, then you don't overthink this and get him. Don't think, oh, well, we already have a quarterback in Gino. Like, we need to pass on this. No.
And this is also shaping up to be one of the better quarterback draft classes we've seen in a very long time.
And the hurtful thing is...
And it's not just 5 guys. Like, this is a deep QB class. You can get a solid second-round QB in this draft.
Right. So I was about to say, their draft position, if they made the playoffs, is likely going to push them out of the realm of getting a great one. But like I said, if someone lands that you lands at that position, they don't be an idiot. And the thing is, I wouldn't expect Seattle to do this, Dwayne, simply because I've seen what this franchise does. Like, let's make no mistake, huh? Steezy is correct in saying that John Schneider did a hell of a job because he got rid of Russ right as Russ is looking like Russ. Like that is a boss move. And the thing is, apparently what angered Russ and put Russ into this situation where he no longer trusted his franchise is successive draft classes in which John Schneider, before Russ was starting to fall off the cliff, was looking at first, I want to say Patrick Mahomes, and then the very next class, I think he was looking at Josh Allen. Even with Russ under contract, he was looking at these 2 quarterbacks. And apparently, rumor has it, if either of them had fallen to the Seattle Seahawks in the position that they were drafting, they would have taken either quarterback. So I don't think, if you had Russell Wilson and you were still looking at quarterbacks, I don't think Geno Smith is going to make them think they have their quarterback for the future.
Of course not. And when you look at the NFC West again, again, I get it. The Jimmy G is not the sexy quarterback pick that everyone wants to say that he is, but they win with Jimmy G, and they have been winning since Jimmy G has been the starter. Christian McCaffrey is there now. Like, this offense that we looked at and was like could take on anybody and can travel, can now really take on anybody and can really travel. You've got Christian McCaffrey. You have Deebo Samuel. George Kittle has been healthy this season, it's been a long time since we've been able to say that George Kittle has been healthy for the 49ers. And I think we've forgotten that because of his health issues, that he is still the second best tight end in the NFL. Like, because of all the injury history and things like that, and because Travis Kelce has Pat Mahomes and George Kittle has Jimmy G. But whatever. Like, this defense is still great when healthy. This is a team that can go to Philly, that can go to Dallas, can go to Minnesota, can go to Seattle, as we've seen them do already, can go to anywhere and win football games. Like, we've seen it happen. So as it stands right now, it is a feel-good story right now for the Seahawks to have moved on from Russ. Everyone thought they were going to suck, and they don't suck. Got it. But the sky can still fall. Not saying that it will, but it's possible. And also, just because you get off to this fast start, as I said to Steezy on Twitter last night, this isn't baseball. This isn't hockey. This isn't basketball. This isn't soccer. Like, a one-game difference is the difference between you hosting a playoff game and you having to go on the road 3 times to make it to the like one game matters. And right now, the one game that really matters for Seattle is their loss to San Francisco. Like, San Francisco, I think, still to play the Saints. I think still to play the Falcons. And Seattle lost those games too. So there are 2 more games that if San Francisco wins, now we're getting to the tiebreaker game. Like, there are a lot of things that have to go right for Seattle right now, and I get it. I've never once said that Geno's been playing bad ball, and I think that because he's a Seahawks fan, he has adopted this mindset that because I don't think Geno's in the MVP conversation, but I'm saying that Geno's playing bad ball. Geno's not playing bad ball. Geno's playing the best ball of his career. the bar was incredibly low, but he is still playing the best ball of his career. I recognize that and understand that. But Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks are not a threat to anybody. Like, their defense is still hot garbage. Their O-line is still hot garbage. Like, this team, roster construction-wise, is still not a good football team, and they're overachieving. Sure, major props to them. I wish the Green Bay Packers, who are constructed a little bit better, would be 5-3 right now, but they're not. And it's okay. Like, I do wish that, but they're not. And I think that what's happening with the Seahawks is we are using the story of Russell Wilson having been traded to Denver and them not looking good, and we're using that to amplify what the Seahawks are doing, when the fact of the matter is, if you look at the schedule, they have 5 wins. 2 of them are bad losses to the Falcons and to the Saints. They have another blowout loss to the 49ers, and they've eked by 3 other times in their 5 wins. Like, this has not been a scorched the earth MVP caliber season. I get it. The stats say otherwise because he's top 5 in almost everything. Sure, whatever. But like, Jalen Hurts' team is undefeated and they have a better passing offense. And Josh Allen's team has 2 losses on, or 1 loss on the season, and their team is also really good in the pass game. And we know what Patrick Mahomes is doing. And you can turn your nose at me if you want it, but Kirk Cousins has played 1 bad game all season, and that 1 bad game he played happens to be against the best team in football, the Philadelphia Eagles. His team is 6-1. And Michael Parsons, again, I get it, he's a defensive player. No one likes to give defensive players love in these conversations, but I will. Michael Parsons and this defense, but specifically Michael Parsons, is the reason why when Dak went down, the Cowboys were winning. It's not Cooper Rush. It's not because of Tony Pollard. It's not because of GBL. It's because of Michael Parsons. And Michael Parsons is still the reason why the Cowboys are winning games with Dak being back. That makes him an MVP caliber player because
I'm gonna stop here right now.
Oh, jeez.
I've been undervaluing Micah Parsons by calling him a top 5 player. Here's my hot take. You want a hot take for tonight? Micah Parsons is right now the best player in football. Like, forget position value. Micah Parsons, night in, night out, is the best player in football. Because I guess obviously the importance of the quarterback position makes Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes slightly more important. There is no one player beyond those 2, maybe, and also Lamar Jackson. When you talk about a player on either side of football or even his special teams, there is, like, when you go to game plan, I don't think there is one player in all of football where a coach is completely game planning for that one player like Micah Parsons right now.
It would be TJ Watt, but TJ's hurt.
Like, not even, like, this one dude just wrecks everything.
Yeah.
Like, everything. And the one game in which you can see he was absent was arguably against the best offensive line in football. And they were smart enough to know, look, we are strong at running the football. We do not want to get in 3rd and long situations, because we get in 3rd and long situations, we are going to be in trouble. And it also helps when you have Lane Johnson to basically block this dude.
Yeah.
Micah Parsons, I've sit down and watched game tape over and over again on the different ways Dan Quinn uses him and the problems he causes by the different ways he uses him. Because even if Micah Parsons doesn't get into your backfield, you're double teaming him and causing other mismatches along your offensive line.
And Michael Parsons could be a cover 3 safety. Dan Quinn would put him back there in the secondary. Michael Parsons is incredible. Michael Parsons is absolutely phenomenal. And again, like, I get it. The MVP is the best quarterback award, right? But last season, despite not winning the award and despite only being MVP in Defensive Player of the Year, TJ Watt put up MVP caliber numbers as Defensive Player of the Year. When you tie an all-time record, that's an MVP caliber season. Almost every year we look at Aaron Donald and say, man, he can have one of those years where if he really locks in and wrecks the league, he could be a D-point and an MVP. Like, we have these conversations. It's not far-fetched. I know it doesn't happen often, but it's not far-fetched to think that the Defensive Player of the Year can win, or a defensive player can win MVP. It's happened before. We looked at Jonathan Taylor last year. We said, maybe Jonathan Taylor could be in the hunt for MVP. We looked at Derrick Henry 2 years ago and said, maybe Derrick Henry could be in the hunt for MVP. So this notion that just because Saquon Barkley is a running back and just because Michael Parsons is a defensive player, he doesn't have a position, a defensive player, just because they're not quarterbacks doesn't mean they can't win the MVP. And the New York Giants have been one of, if not the best running football team from week 1 till now, and they're 5-2. Michael and the Dallas Cowboys, outside of the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles, have been the best offense in football, and they're 6-2. There is an argument to be made for both of these guys that they can be in the discussion. And that's all I'm saying, Steezy. Maybe you don't have them ahead of them, but they're in there. And to turn your nose up at them is disrespectful to Micah Parsons.
The reasons
with Saquon Barkley.
Without having that for that extended period of time, you winning games, that is almost all on Micah Parsons. I mean, obviously not. Like, they committed to running the football more, which is what they needed to do from the
offense is terrible. The Cowboys' offense this season is the middle of the pack at best. At best. I know they just hung 49 or whatever it was on the Bears. They just hung 30 something on the Lions. Yeah, who hasn't? Who hasn't dropped almost 50 points on the Bears? Who hasn't dropped almost 50 points on the Lions?
Well, wait till this Sunday. Wait till this Sunday, and you will see who hasn't dropped 50 points on the Lions. You just wait.
Jeez. Michael Parsons for MVP. No, he's not my MVP pick, but I think he needs to be in the conversation, as does Kirk Cousins, as does Saquon Barkley. Okay. Before we get into power rankings, I do want to talk about one other guy that I think, two other guys actually, that have kind of hovered around the MVP conversation. We'll start with Tua Tagovailoa. And I've said this a couple times over the last week. The Miami Dolphins are 6-2 or 5-2. They're 5-2, I believe. They've lost 2 games. No, I'm sorry, they're 5-3. They've lost 3 games. Obviously, the game against Cincinnati where Tua got hurt again, and then the 2 games they played without Tua. But when Tua starts and finishes football games, the Dolphins are undefeated this season. In the 4 games that Tua has started and finished, the Dolphins have won those football games, despite having missed 2 games, or really 2.5, because he missed the second half of the game against the Bengals. Is there a case to be made at all right now at this point for Tua to be somewhere around this MVP chatter that we've been having? Because he was in this conversation when they started 3-0 heading into the game against Cincinnati, and now all of a sudden he's missed 2 games and it's like he's fallen off the face of the planet. But when he starts to finish his games, the Dolphins win. Is there a case to be had for Tua to be in the MVP conversation this season?
Not immediately right now, because obviously sample size is that he's missed what would equate to a quarter of the season, because obviously he's only played 8. But as it goes on, yeah, you see, and you know me, I'm not a Tua Tagovailoa fan, but the numbers are what they are.
There's a lot of guys I know that don't like Tua more than you.
And I'm about to tell you right now, like, the numbers are what they are, and the winning is what it is. Like you said, once Tua starts and finishes a football game, this team is 5-0, and you cannot get past that. That is what it is. And yes, the defense is extremely good, but ironic enough, as you've stolen San Francisco's run game coordinator, your run game isn't good. Like, it's all have been on the arm of Tua Tagovailoa and the legs of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Like, that is their offense. It's like, give them the football and then they do the rest. I don't think he's going to win MVP. I don't think he'll be finishing in top 5 of the conversation. But at some point, as the season goes on and he finishes the season, hopefully, yeah, it'll be hard to say you are not looking at this guy with, MVP votes, or not talking about him or discussing him. Like, as I said, this team cannot run the football to save its life. And you're talking about having a run game coordinator as your head coach. You're shuffling in and out running backs. You still can't get it done. The defense is...
They couldn't get Kareem Hunt at the trade deadline. I thought that would have been huge for them if they could have.
This trade deadline is just so weird, right? For active court trade deadline, which is the most active trade deadline in the history of the league.
100%. And I like that it was as active. If this is a sign of things to come, I love this. The NBA deadline is always like one of those days you circle on the calendar because stuff's crazy is happening. If the NFL trade deadline is what it was on Tuesday and we keep having stuff like this, all for it. I love it.
So here's the funny thing. As active as a trade deadline was, and it was historically active, I can argue that this trade deadline was marked more by the trades that didn't happen than the actual trades that went down. Because as you mentioned, Kareem Hunt didn't get moved. Neither did Cam Akers. Neither did Jerry Jeudy. And these are all players that we thought would definitely move. Neither did Brandon Cooks there in Texas. Like, there are so many players that we all thought would have been moved and are staying still. Like, wow. And it was a historic day.
Yeah. I feel like
to finish your point, yeah, like at some point Tua's name will come up because of the success of the Dolphins, especially when he plays.
I feel like, so here's the thing, and I agree with you. I'm not the biggest fan of Tua, but Tua, look, you want to talk about numbers, you want to talk about points. Tua's undefeated when he starts and finishes football games. It's the fact. Like when you gave this guy Jalen Waddle, he's been excelling. You gave this guy Tyreek Hill, he's been doing great. Like Tua's been looking good so far this season. Now, Lamar Jackson, the big thing for this offseason for Lamar Jackson was give him his money, and he's had some solid games. He's also been responsible for the 3 losses that they've had because he hasn't played well in those fourth quarters. And so far through the first half of the season, the Ravens offense has been one of the worst offenses in the fourth quarter this season. They're sitting at second, I believe, or they might be first now after the Bengals just lost on Monday night. But they're at the top of the division with the Bengals in the AFC North. Has Lamar Jackson this season played well enough to get his money come season's end?
Of course he has. Because reality situation, there are 2 things. One, the market that has exploded. Like, let's take, for instance, you're going to take Lamar Jackson over Dak Prescott, won't you?
No, I'm on record as saying I don't have Lamar Jackson over Dak Prescott.
Okay, well,
I got slaughtered for it. I'm one of 2 people in America that feel this way. It's fine.
Well, and that's fine. But
like I hate. I think look, I'll say it again. There's one thing Lamar Jackson does consistently better than Dak Prescott, and that's run the football. I mean, everything else is comparable. Like Lamar Jackson's 1-3 in the playoffs. Okay, so is Dak Prescott. Like, so what? Like Lamar Jackson's accurate with the ball. Okay, so what? So is Dak Prescott. Like, if you're telling me that Lamar Jackson's what he does with his legs makes him a better quarterback than Dak Prescott, that's fine. That's your opinion. I don't think that as valuable as it is, I wouldn't that is enough because I think Dak, he's a better decision maker. He's slightly more accurate. He's a better passer of the football, which is what these guys get paid.
You can make the argument
it's
as
like
a fucking passer, Dak is better.
Yes,
but as I said, so there are 2 things that will dictate he gets his money, and he's going to get it in Baltimore, or they're going to have to franchise him and still pay him what he wants or close to what he wants in a per year deal. And I don't think the relationship that he has with Baltimore that's going to end up. But the 2 things: one, the quarterback market. Like, you're paying Russell Wilson $245 million. Let's just stop there. Like immediately, let's stop there. But if you want to go further, look at the money that Deshaun Watson's getting. Look at the money that soon to retire Aaron Rodgers is getting. Like, you can argue easily that Lamar Jackson deserves his money more than those quarterbacks because as much as 4-time MVP that Aaron Rodgers is, back-to-back MVP, the reality is he's not playing well, or at least these weapons around him are not playing well for him to be successful. But most importantly, he's going to retire now. Like, I don't expect him to play next season at all. So, like, that's not the future, and he's making way more money than obviously the rookie deal that Lamar Jackson is on. So the market is what is exploding. Look, okay, Kyler Murray, who is Lamar Jackson late, is making a ton of money. You're not going to pay Kyler Murray more than Lamar Jackson. So that's number 1. But second and most importantly, why he is going to get his money is the same thing that you brought up with, ironically, with Tua Tagovailoa. When Lamar Jackson plays, this team wins football games. Like, they will have a winning percentage of 70% or roundabout when he has played his entire game, entire season or career. We saw last season the moment, and I know you forgot last season, the Baltimore Ravens at one point were the top seed in the AFC. The top seed. I know everyone forgot that. The moment that Lamar Jackson got hurt and you brought in Lamar Jackson like in Tyler Huntley, I'm getting the name from correct?
Yep.
The wheels fell right off. This team went from being the first seed in the AFC to missing the playoffs in its entirety for the first time in Lamar Jackson's career. There is no one player who means more to their entire team than Lamar Jackson does to the Baltimore Ravens. Everything the Baltimore Ravens do, how they even construct their defense to be like, we need to quick hit, get off the field so Lamar Jackson can get on it. Their entire roster construction with the 3 tight ends led by Mark Andrews, stable of running backs, and like, they can't get the right receiver position solidified. I mean, Rashad Bateman is good, but seems to have some injury problems here and there. But This entire team, from the offense, how the offensive line is built with those 3 tight ends as well, a potent running attack. They don't value huge possession receivers, which you think that they should at this point in time. The defense, even how the defense is built to make sure to get off the field quickly, this team is built around the entirety of Lamar Jackson's talents. I do not see a situation where he does not get the contract that he wants, especially after Josh Allen's contract. And you can argue Josh Allen's a better quarterback. Fine. But look at the success of the 2 guys. One man is a unanimous MVP. You can argue, well,
going to win his first MVP this season.
I do too. But before he got paid, Josh Allen does not have MVP season. Sure. Josh Allen also does not have a litany of playoff success outside of those last 2 years. He did make an AFC title game, but didn't make it back. You can sit down and say Josh Allen.
I've never been to one.
You can also say that Josh Allen does not have the regular season success that Lamar Jackson has, because it took injury for Lamar Jackson to miss the playoffs for his first time in his ever career. And I'm not here to tell you Josh Allen is a worse quarterback than Lamar Jackson, because I'm going to take Josh Allen 10 times out of 10. I'm not crazy. What I'm telling you, though, is Lamar Jackson has done everything possible to warrant the money that he's looking for, and I do not see a situation where Baltimore does not pay him.
I do. Call me crazy. I do. I see a situation where Lamar Jackson doesn't get paid. I see a situation where Lamar Jackson gets franchised. Here's the deal. The Baltimore Ravens are 5-3. Their 3 losses have come in fourth quarter collapses offensively.
And defensively, too, to be fair.
Sure. But also the offense looked terrible as well. You're right. It takes a defense to blow a 20-point lead. It also takes an offense to blow a 20-point lead. They stopped scoring. I get that. Lamar Jackson has not been the best one. He hasn't been at his best in the fourth quarter this season. No. That's a fact. Lamar Jackson this season, in their 3 losses, hasn't looked good when it mattered most. If you're going to pay a guy $200 million, north of $200 million guaranteed, they make that money in the fourth quarter. This is not me hating on Lamar Jackson. I know there's people out there that's ready to say that. Because I said this about Russell Wilson after game 1, when instead of trusting Russell Wilson with the ball, they decided to trust Brandon McManus to kick a 54-yard field goal. There's 3 guys on the face of the earth right now I trust to kick a 54-yard field goal. Justin Tucker, Matt Prater, if he's still in the league somewhere, and Harrison Butker. Brandon McManus ain't one of those guys. No disrespect to Brandon McManus, but he's not one of them. So that's that. I said it about Russ. Aaron Rodgers has been god-awful this season. He's been god-awful, and he's making somewhere around $200 million a year. He hasn't been playing like a $200 million a year guaranteed quarterback. Deshaun Watson getting paid $230 million guaranteed is it's the thing that everyone cites. It's an outlier. Never, ever, ever in any other walk of life have we ever made the outlier the rule, because it's an outlier. It is not what we expect. The Cleveland Browns have been so god-awfully bad for all of my life and the better part of yours, that they needed to go out there and pay this man who couldn't keep his hands to himself $230 million guaranteed so they can have some sort of relevance and some sort of marginal success over the next 4 years, because any moniker of success they accomplish with Deshaun Watson at the helm will be millions and millions and millions of times better than the very much of nothing that they've accomplished since Jim Brown in the early, however long ago it was, Jim Brown was playing football.
As old as I am, the Browns have been bad all of your life, and mine too. So don't think it's just part of it. That old.
The Cleveland Browns are not a good football team, and they were desperate. Bad football teams. Look, desperate. What's the saying? Desperate times calls for desperate measures. Paying Deshaun Watson $230 million a year is the ultimate desperate measure by the Cleveland Browns. Doesn't count. Doesn't matter. So when we're talking about this, we're talking about Kyler Murray. We're talking about a guy in Kyler Murray who, as you mentioned, is comparable to Lamar Jackson and hasn't played full seasons that well. His team has collapsed, and a lot of people want to put it on Kyler Murray. No. We will not accuse Kyler Murray of the collapse of the Arizona Cardinals year in and year out. There's one guy to blame for those collapses, and his name is Cliff Kingsbury, the man who should have never been hired to coach the Arizona Cardinals to begin with. That's number one. You mentioned Josh Allen, and I get it. Josh Allen doesn't have an NFC MVP, but Josh Allen has been to an AFC title game. And if I remember correctly, the team that beat him in the AFC title game is the Kansas City Chiefs, which happens to be the team that beats everyone all of the time since Pat Mahomes has been a quarterback. So I'll pass on that. Lamar Jackson's 1-3 in the playoffs. Fine. There are a lot of quarterbacks that are 1-3 in playoffs. You want to talk about the playoff record? Let's not talk about the playoff record. Again, he's played phenomenally so far in his career. But this season specifically, because it's the contract year, in his contract year, when it really mattered most, 3 times this season, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens have failed miserably. They have trailed this season the least of any other team in the NFL, and they're 5-3. Usually, the team that trails the most trails the least has the most wins. Well, the team with the most wins in the NFL right now is the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles, and they've trailed in games for longer periods of time than the Baltimore Ravens. That's a problem. I understand that Lamar Jackson is box office. I understand he is the second ever unanimous MVP in the history of the league. I understand how great he is. I understand how electric he is. I understand that he is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I get all of that. I understand that he is one of the best quarterbacks we may have ever seen ever, because there's no one that does it or can do it the way that Lamar Jackson does it. But this season specifically, Lamar Jackson has not played like a quarterback that is worth $200 million guaranteed. He's just not. And that doesn't mean he doesn't deserve it, because I agree with you. He does deserve it. But if we're basing it off the merits of this season, which is what I think the Ravens are going to do, they're going to base it off the merits of this season and the other seasons because he hasn't got his contract year. This season is going to weigh down a little bit on what he's done in years past, because when it really, really mattered, Lamar hasn't been Action Jackson that we know and love. Lamar has just been Lamar Jackson. And as great as Lamar Jackson is, what we've seen so far through 8 games of the season doesn't warrant $200 million guaranteed. That doesn't mean I don't think he can improve. That doesn't mean I don't think that can change. That doesn't mean I don't think down the line, if the Ravens somehow make things happen despite not having, Rashad Bateman now for the rest of the season, that doesn't mean I don't think that he can earn it. I get that. But right now, today, Friday, November 4th at 8:45 p.m., if the Ravens are making a decision today, the Ravens, I don't think, are paying Lamar Jackson $200 million guaranteed, and they're warranted to do so.
There's just one problem. If they don't pay him, what are their alternatives?
They're going to franchise Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson is going to play on the tag because Lamar himself said he is not the kind of quarterback that's going to hold out or hold in. He's going to show up and do his job. And the Ravens know that. And I'm not saying that to be grimy, but as we all know, the NFL is a business, and the Ravens recognize that. And the Ravens, although I don't think they would do this, if the Ravens were to tag Lamar Jackson and Lamar Jackson chose not to play, that wouldn't look good on Lamar, because Lamar said several times this offseason he's not that kind of guy that's going to sit out if he doesn't get what he wants. I think they should pay him. Don't get me wrong. I think they should pay him. I'm with the masses. Pay Lamar Jackson. But if we're looking at what Lamar Jackson has done so far this season, specifically in the 3 losses, and games in general, but specifically in those 3 losses when they blew leads, when they weren't looking good, when he wasn't looking so hot in the fourth quarter, when the Ravens as an offense haven't looked that good so far in the fourth quarter, even in the 5 wins, it's not looking like a $200 million guaranteed quarterback. That's all I'm saying. He deserves it, but this season specifically, I don't think he's played like he deserves it. He's had his moments in the other 5 games, but in those 3 specifically, because of how egregious those losses were, because of how bad those losses were, given that you were up double digit and in some cases 20 points in those games and you blew it, those losses mean more than if you're losing shootouts or if you're losing a game that comes down to the wire and you're not up big. Those are those are 2 different things. Being up big and not being able to close the deal is not $200 million a year quarterbacks close the deal when they're up big. And Lamar Jackson 3 times this season didn't close the deal.
I'm with you, but
the money. Overall, though, he deserves the money. I agree. He does deserve the money overall.
Like, one way or another, they're going to have to, as you said, they're going to either franchise tag him or they're going to give him money. But make no mistake, like, when we overrated that quarterback class that included same Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, though, I mean, those are 2 great quarterbacks. But the rest of the class, including Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, we all overrated. There are not a lot of quarterbacks out there. Like, even this last class, as in the one that's the second year led by Trevor Lawrence. Now we're seeing how bad that quarterback class really is. Justin Fields looks terrible. I feel so bad for saying this, but I was a Zach Wilson fan. No longer no. Zach Wilson looks absolutely atrocious. Like Matt Jones can't keep a 4th round, 5th round rookie from starting. Like this class, So I say that to say there are not a lot of quarterbacks out there. So it is not like he is not going to be their quarterback in the future. And I know that that's not what you're saying. He is going to be their quarterback in the future, one way or another.
I agree, and he should be. Lamar Jackson gives the Ravens their best chance to win a Super Bowl, and I think the Baltimore Ravens recognize that. I also think, and look, people don't want to mention it, but it's worth mentioning. The Baltimore Ravens also recognize that Lamar Jackson, because of his style of play, is more susceptible to injury than any other quarterback in the NFL. That is not the Ravens' fault. They drafted him. They knew what they were getting themselves into. I get it. But you're not going to pay someone all this money, and then we get a knock on wood RG3 incident in Washington, and now he's done and never the same. I'm not wishing that on Lamar Jackson. I'm saying it's a reality of the situation. We don't see a lot of quarterbacks that run as often as Lamar Jackson do, have long careers in the NFL, be peak talent in the NFL for a long period of time because of that. The Ravens recognize that. And again, this is a business. They all love Lamar the person. They all love Lamar the player. But if the going gets tough and Lamar Jackson legs get bent in a way they're not supposed to get bent, the entire Ravens operation goes up in flames because this entire offense only works if Lamar is the quarterback. This isn't a system where you can put another pocket passer in there and it works. No, they even try to put, like you mentioned, they tried to put Tyler Huntley in there last season, and he looked good, but it didn't result in wins. Sound good, but didn't result like they got away. I mean, they got away with. They didn't get away with it, but they got away with it. Like it was one of those kind of situations. So again, Lamar Jackson's fantastic. Pay the man his money. This season though, he has not been playing like a $200 million guaranteed north of contract per year. So let's talk about playoff teams. There's 6 teams that made the playoffs last season that have losing records. The Rams are 3-4. Both our Packers and the Buccaneers are 3-5. The Cardinals also 3-5. The Raiders are 2-5, and the Steelers are 2-6. Now, I think we all kind of expected the Steelers to struggle because there's no Big Ben and because they have a quarterback situation going on there. So the Steelers don't really count, and also because they stumbled into the playoffs last season anyway. So Rams, Bucks, Packers, Cardinals, Raiders. Which of these struggles is the most surprising, and is there any light at the end of the tunnel for any of these football teams?
The Rams, for me, was the biggest struggle, biggest surprise, not just because they're the Super Bowl champions, but the roster, wasn't much different, really, from last season. Obviously, you're missing Odell Beckham Jr. that came in and gave a spark, and I guess I kind of underrated that. And what I really underrated, and I need to stop doing this because I know better, is the retirement of Andrew Whitworth. And I should have realized that offensive line was going to take a huge step back. And you've seen how bad it is, and it has led to the regression of Matthew Stafford inside the pocket. I think part of it may be injury, but I suspect a lot of it is to do with the lack of time he's getting with that offensive line, and also due to the fact that for whatever reason, he's not formed some sort of chemistry with Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson's not a receiver I thought he was. Clearly, Matthew Stafford feels the same way, and missing Odell Beckham Jr. If there's a way back, I would say it would be those same Rams, because I think that their problems are fixable if Sean McVay would just get back to the roots of his offense, which is to run the football in those zone schemes. And I have to believe somewhere, somehow, I just can't believe that these Bucks are that old in front of my eyes. The division is absolutely horrible. For as bad as their 3-5 record is, they're one game out of first place in the NFC. So they're still quarterbacked by Tom Brady. They have a head coach with tons of experience, and he's been a head coach before. You still have Byron Leftwich, who has a great relationship with Tom Brady, and formed a great partnership. Mike Evans is still one of the 10 best receivers in football. I don't care what anyone says. He's still 1,000%. I'm not a fan of Julio Jones, and I think that we are seeing the remains of Julio Jones. But at some point, they can't run the football. That is clear. They cannot run the football. The offensive line is dreadful. But at some point, I think that defense just has to be you're not going to be coached by Todd Bowles and your defense be bad forever.
Mm-hmm.
So your players are still there. Vita Vea is still there. Devin White is still there. Levante David is still there. Shaq Barrett is still there. Like, at some point, this defense is going to get better. You have a great defensive coordinator who's your head coach in Todd Bowles. Tom Brady is Tom Brady. Like, I have to believe, because of how weak the NFC South is, that the easiest way back is for the Bucks. And Rams roster construction has not been that huge turnover. I have to believe at some point they'll find a way, but I'd say the Bucks more so than anyone. It's just the Rams have been the most surprising for me.
The Rams have been the most surprising. The Bucks are the easy way back because their division is god awful. Like the Bucks can win the division with a losing record, which would be crazy to think of, but it's possible, and of course it happens. And if that happens, that's just yet another reason why I think it should not be the division winners. It should be the 7 teams with the best records in the playoffs, because I don't want to see a team with a losing record in the playoffs. That's just not how it works. That should never be how it works. So we've kind of talked about a lot of different things. And I think as we head into this Sunday, because we're in week 9, which is crazy to think, like, the Super Bowl is a little less than 100 days away, which means the playoffs at this point is about 2 months away. Like, we are 2 months from playoff football, which is incredible. So there's 2 things we need to talk about before we get into, or before we close out here. Number one, who are the top 5 teams in the NFL at the halfway mark of the season?
I know there are 3 teams for me, and then there's a log jam after those 3. So usually I like to start from 5 and come up, but this time, because of the log jam, I'm going to start from 1 and come down. I'm not seeing, like, their record dictates it. The Philadelphia Eagles, and the reason I say the Philadelphia Eagles, not just because they have an unbeaten record, but when you look through the roster, you can't say there's an area of concern. Going into this season, my area of concern would have been under center. And Jalen Hurts has taken a huge development, arc in his development. And I can no longer say that's a weakness in their roster. And all credit goes to Howie Roseman in the construction of his roster. Like, bringing in A.J. Brown for a bag of peanuts and a Mariah Carey CD is, like, absolutely, like, wonderful. And then when you saw that you talked about getting Robert Quinn and continually building this roster, like, there is no one area that you can sit down and say this is a problem on the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, you just can't say that. And I can't say the same thing with the Buffalo Bills, who I have at number 2. Like, the roster is great up and down. They were the shocker for me in that I thought this was a time to get somebody like Cam Akers. Yeah, you have a bunch of running backs that can all do the same thing, like catch the ball out of the backfield, but you don't have that bell cow back, that hard runner that in the fourth quarter of games when you want to ice them, you have the back that you can hand off and get those tough yards. And that's part of the reason why in this recent era, this Sean McDermott era of the last 2 seasons, I think they only have 1 win in a 1-score game. And they just don't win 1-score games. And I think part of that is that they cannot run the football. So
their first victory this season was against the Ravens earlier this year.
Yep, and the Ravens have been blowing those games. So I credit that more to Baltimore losing than Buffalo winning. Like, Buffalo just does not win 1-score games. They blow you out or they lose. And part of that, as I said, I think they should have targeted Cam Akers. But then the reality is, can they fault a team that blows up teams? And the answer is no. Like, Buffalo, outside of that loss to Kansas City, are just decimating everyone in front of them. Like, Josh Allen right now is my MVP. I know we're going to get into that eventually, but he is my MVP. Gabriel Davis, wow. That's what I'm going to say. Wow. Stephon Diggs. That offense is just like as quick hitting as it is, like explosive as there is in the NFL right now, even better than Kansas City, in my estimation. And we don't talk about their defense enough. We are seeing, I'm going to say this right now, this has been one of the best, if not the best, safety tandem in all the football I've ever seen in Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. This is a damn good secondary, especially, and we've not even seen, has Tre'Davious White played a single game yet?
No, and we didn't want to pay Micah Hyde.
Let's break.
I'm sorry, but every time I see Micah Hyde play football, my heart breaks because
absolute. We didn't even offer the man. We didn't even speak to the man on the way out the door. That's absolute. That is sabotage. But anyway, yeah. That's the best safety combination in football right now, and it's not even close. And it is arguably a historic all-time safety combination. And Tre'Davious White has not even played a single game this season. That is a great defense. And then the Rich just getting better by adding, or richer by adding Von Miller up front. You should not be able to do that. You should not be a Super Bowl favorite and add Von Miller. That's wrong. You have broken some sort of law. You should not be able to do that. Imagine I'm picking up my PlayStation controller and I'm playing you. I was like, I have the Buffalo Bills, but I can trade for Von Miller. You're going to put down your controller and say, that's wrong, Justin. Like, no way in the real world will this happen. But you get to acquire Von Miller as a free agent. Madness. The Kansas City Chiefs, for me, are the number 3 team. Buffalo didn't even lose to Kansas City. I mentioned that. They lost. That's a 1-1 score game in the last 2 seasons that they've won. So Kansas City, number 3. Like, reality is the loss against Buffalo is the only loss they should have. That Indianapolis game, that will never happen again. It came down to so many factors. One, that whatever Frank Clark said on the field, that should never, ever, 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 ever impact what happened and give Indianapolis life late. That was absolute trash. Handing Indianapolis that win, and we've seen Indianapolis has been trash ever since. Anyhow, so reality for me, Kansas City is a 1-loss team right now. This is, if Buffalo's the best team in the AFC, I think Kansas City is number 2. So in the power rankings for me, Kansas City, like, you have Patrick Mahomes, you still have Travis Kelce. They're figuring out ways to run the football. Who the hell knew they can run the football, and they're finding ways to stop the run and play defense? Who the hell knew this? At some point, the cadre of receivers that they have not named Travis Kelce is going to work out. Like, you brought in Juju-Schuster, not a fan of, but you can still stretch the field with another guy that should still be in town in Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Sorry about that, but I'm just going to keep mentioning ex-Packer players who should still be at Lambeau. At some point, he's going to find chemistry with all these players, and the offense will act like it doesn't miss Tyreek Hill. Here is where the logjam gets funny for me. Like, there are like 4 or 5 teams I could put at 4 or 5, like, realistically. I'm gonna put Miami Dolphins that has Tua Tagovailoa at number 4, and they are obviously, like, they had those 3 losses, but this is not the same football team when Tua Tagovailoa is not playing. So let's not act like they're really 5-3 when they should be close to 1 or 2 loss football team. Like, this team
very well be undefeated, if we're being honest.
They could very well be. Again, I think Baltimore threw away that game against them, but again, football games are there to be won, and Miami found a way to win that game. So, like, their offense is explosive, and I think Tyreek Hill is going to run away with Offensive Player of the Year. Like, he's running away from defenders trying to catch him from behind. Then you have a situation. Green Bay podcast right now. Oh my gosh. But yeah, you have a situation. That offense is as explosive as there is in football without a running attack. Weird that you have Mike McDaniel, you can't for a running football. And I don't think their defense gets enough love. Or we're going to see how good Bradley Chubb is or isn't right now. I am not a fan of Bradley Chubb, but Miami traded for him. They traded like a first-round pick. He was not giving that up for Bradley Chubb. On top of this,
pick that San Francisco gave him in the Trey Lance trade. So, man.
And then on top of that, the extension. But if you're traded for Bradley Chubb, there you're going to give him the extension. So we're going to find out that. The 5th spot again, like, you could put a number of teams, but there are 2 teams I want to put here. And I will go with the save for the 2 picks and put Minnesota right above Dallas instead of having Dallas at 5. I'm going to go to Minnesota. And the reason being, I trust Minnesota's offense more than Dallas's. Obviously, with the cadre of weapons you have, like, you can run the football with Dalvin Cook. Like, you're explosive, obviously, with Justin Jefferson, who is a possession receiver who can stretch the field. Like, how many receivers do that in this league? Adam Thielen is as good as a number 2 as there is if he can stay on the field. And you somehow, some way, tricked a division rival into giving you a 25-year-old franchise tight end. I cannot believe it. So now you are even more loaded on offense. I am going to say, and if you thought you were going to head stretch even worse, I've said this from the start of this season or going into this offseason, how the hell does the Green Bay Packers decide if you're going to keep a Smith, you're going to keep the wrong Smith? How do you decide to keep Preston Smith and not Zadarius Smith? Is he and scratcher? Don't care how bad Zadarius' back injury looks. This man is a great pass rusher. He doubles down as a run stopper, something that Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith have no idea about. They do not know how to tackle running backs if they were begged to. How do you not keep Zadarius Smith? Zadarius Smith is the most underrated defensive player in all of football. And this is why I'm going to I put Minnesota slightly ahead of Dallas simply because I trust their offense, obviously more than Dallas's offense. What's going on, Emmett?
Hey, I'm doing good. Came in immediately hearing all the bad stuff about the Packers. Yeah. We finished the bolt about 5 minutes ago.
Stacey was there?
Yeah, he was there.
Where the hell are you, Calvin Domingo? I am sick. No, I don't want to hear anything. I am sick. Dang it, wrong person. Give me a second. I don't want to keep going back and forth with you on Twitter. I don't want to keep going back and forth with you and your biased Instagram comments with all of your 12s. I want you here on this show, on this screen with me. I want you here. I am so sick of Steezy A. Smith on Twitter, and I'm sick of him on Instagram. I am sick of it. I want to see your face. I want to hear the words come out of your mouth as you speak them. Steezy, you're going to stop ducking me. I told you and I told Justin that I would start crashing y'all's shows, and Justin's here. Justin, Steezy, if you're not here next week, bro, I promise you, the next show you do, I don't care if it's the Bolt, I don't care if it's Press Sports. I don't care if it's 32-bit TV on the beat. I don't care if it's a trade breakdown with 32-bit TV. I don't care if it's the Steezy A. Smith show, or whatever your show is called. Does your show have a name? No disrespect. Seriously, does it have a name? I don't know. I never knew. But the next thing you do that's sports-related, Steezy, I don't care if it's an Instagram live. I don't care if it's a Instagram reel. I will crash it, and I will be there. I don't want to argue with you on Twitter. I don't want to argue with you on TikTok. I don't argue on Twitter. I don't want to argue with you on Reddit or MySpace or Facebook or any of these other archaic social media apps. Don't Snapchat me. Don't tweet me. Don't kick me. Don't Skype me. I want you here on StreamYard on this screen tonight. I need you here so we can talk about this here, face to face. I need to see you. I just felt like I needed to cut a promo right there because I feel like Steezy's ducking me, and I don't like it. I don't like being.
Do people use Reddit for anything other than porn? They really?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But
you were killing Steezy on Twitter. You were body bagging him. I'm not gonna lie. You just
thank you.
Yeah, no,
I am so sick. Look, I love Steezy, and I think Steezy's incredible. But yeah. I am sick of this pro Geno Smith agenda behind a Twitter account. See me. Come see me. I'm here. What Mark Ingram say? I'm right outside the bank. I'm here. Come see me. You got a problem? Come see me here. I just had to get that off my chest because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Emmett's here. Just with Emmett's here. Where are you, Steezy? I can't find him.
You wrote him off, but he's not been writing back.
He's not been. See, well, I need you to write back. I need you to write where you at, bro. Whatever. Okay, Emmett. We were talking top 5 teams in the NFL at this point, halfway through the season. I just had to get that off my chest because I just realized that Emmett texted me yesterday and said, "I'll be on the boat, but if I can get there, I'll get there." And he's here. And I know Stevie made it to the boat. I know he did.
He retweeted your tweet.
He liked it and he retweeted it, and he's not here. Steezy, I promise you, Steezy A. Smith, the next time I see you, it's up and it's stuck. I promise. Go ahead, Emmett. Go ahead.
Yeah, 1 and 2 for me. 1, 2, and 3 are pretty easy. I don't have them in any specific order. Bills, Eagles, Chiefs. I didn't hear the first part of your guys' show, but I can assume you guys did enough analysis for me. After that, I think the Dolphins are an interesting team. I think that they're undefeated with Tua as their starting quarterback. Yeah, they haven't looked as good as of late as he's coming off of the concussion. But I still think that Miami has looked about as good as possible. They looked a lot better last week against the Lions than they looked against the Steelers. All three of their losses came in which, although I don't think that they were going to win the Bengals game regardless, but again, they weren't going to get blown out to the Jets, and I don't think they lose to the Vikings without them. So I'd probably put them at 4. After that, it feels like then there's a step down to everybody else. I think that you can put, the Vikings you can put up there. I think the Titans are an interesting team to put up there because although I think that they're limited, I think they know what they are. And like knowing that you're limited, unlike Green Bay, I think knowing that you're limited helps out so much because I know. I'd put it on too. It's knowing that you're limited is so much better. And they know that the way that they are going to win games is by running Derrick Henry. So what do? They run Derrick Henry. So I think they're an interesting team. You made a case for the Vikings. I think Dallas is a very interesting team because I don't know if we know what Dallas is yet, offensively at least. I don't think we know. This is the first season we're seeing Dak Prescott since the middle of 2018 without Amari Cooper. This is the first time that we're seeing CeeDee Lamb as the true number one. We know that their defense is going to be incredibly good, but we don't know about the offense yet. We don't know. I saw that they've looked good the past couple of weeks and that they've been able to, again, kind of do what the Titans are doing with their play calling in terms of we know that we're limited, or at least we know what we do best, which is running the ball. So seeing what they did against the Bears last week, although their defense did give up more points than they had all season, I think that the Cowboys make an interesting push for that 5 spot. And I think that I have them there. I think there is it's so hard to have them above some of these teams who we know what they are because Dallas's offense, truly, I don't know what it looks like. We've seen 3 games with Dak Prescott. We saw them beat the Lions in a game that was a lot closer than the score would indicate. We saw them blow out the Bears, and we see them get shut down by Tampa Bay all the way back in week 1. Their offense under Cooper Rush was not the offense that they're going to be rolling with for the rest of the season. So it's very hard to judge them. But I think that the Cowboys, especially with Micah Parsons, you talked about Zadarius Smith and the lack of recognition he's getting. Again, you wouldn't have known unless you looked at the stats that Zadarius Smith is leading the league in sacks with 8.5. But Micah Parsons is true. Although Zadarius Smith, and this sounds weird to say, and it sounds a little salty coming from a Packer fan, he's never, outside of the game against Minnesota his first year in Green Bay, he's never been like a huge game wrecker. Like he'll get those sacks, but they always feel super quiet. Micah Parsons is a flat out game wrecker. And you saw it with the defensive touchdown last week. So I'm going to take the Cowboys at that number 5 spot, but I think there's plenty of teams that you can wind up putting in there, like the Titans, like the Vikings, the Cowboys. It really is after those first 3 and after those first 4, it's really tough to distinguish.
Before I get my top 5, I just do want to say, because I just opened Instagram, it's breaking news. Nike is suspending their relationship with Kyrie Irving because of what he said, and they're no longer releasing the Kyrie 8 that was scheduled to release, I think, later this year or next year. Just thought that was important to share. Again, I'm going to say the same thing, right? Philly, Buffalo, Chiefs are right there. That's 1, 2, 3. I have the Cowboys in my top 5 because I do think that the defense specifically has gotten them. I'm surprised that we haven't mentioned the San Francisco 49ers, who I think are the 4th best team in the NFL right now.
I'll let you finish, sorry. The reason I didn't mention them, and here's the thing, I think they're the 2nd best team in the entire NFC. I honestly do. I expect them to be in Philadelphia playing the NFC title game. 100%. It's just I don't know how healthy they are right now. I know they're getting healthy. So
they're not there all the way. And that's what makes and that's I think that's why it's tough, because they're not there all the way. But the San Francisco 49ers right now are, even not being at full strength, the 4th best team in football, because they look incredible. And we talked a lot about how their running game was as crazy as is with the running back by committee. Yeah, insert Christian McCaffrey. You don't need a running back by committee. You just need Christian freaking McCaffrey, who apparently can throw touchdown passes too, as we saw this past week. This is a football team, and I talked about this on the rundown with Peyton and Marcus almost 3 hours ago now. This is a football team that we always knew could travel defensively. But now this is a football team that can travel offensively. And I think the one big X factor in all of this is George Kittle, because George Kittle, as great as he is, he's had injury problems. This is the first time in George Kittle's career that we haven't heard a mumble about anything related to him being injured since his rookie season and I think his sophomore season. He spent the past couple years being hurt. He's played, if I'm not mistaken, every game so far this season, and it's been I'm not 100% sure about that, but if I'm not mistaken, he's played every game this season, and that's been the difference because he is hands down the best blocking tight end in football, pass or run. You now have
Kittle missed the first 2 games with injury. He was dealing with something in the offseason. But he has not gotten re-injured, which has always been his problem. He'll come back for a couple games, then he's missing 7 or 8 games.
George Kittle's been playing really good football. Jimmy G, as you guys know, I am a Jimmy G apologist. I love Jimmy Garoppolo, porn star Jimmy, if you will, or as Germ would say from Stuff About Sports, Jimmy Graps. He's fantastic. He's a winner. That's what he does. He wins football games. He's not the sexiest person. Well, I mean, appearance-wise, maybe he is. But he's not the sexiest quarterback as far as being a quarterback. But that's a good brother there. And you have Deebo Samuel. You have Brandon Ayuk. You have George Kittle. You have Christian McCaffrey. This offensive line is solid. It's not been what I thought it was going to be, which was the best O-line in football. But the Eagles have been that. So, I mean, I guess whatever. There's nothing wrong with being second to the Eagles right now, at least this season so far. So, there's nothing wrong with that. And the defense is getting healthy, and they're still great. This is a team that can go to Minnesota, that can go to Dallas, that can go to Philly. And I agree with you, Justin. I think we're getting Philly and San Francisco in the NFC Championship game this season. I think there's going to be one heck of a game. The San Francisco 49ers right now, I know they're 4-4. I know they're second in the NFC West. But the 49ers, they own the Rams, they own the Cardinals, and by all intents and purposes, they own the Seahawks. All it took was for the 49ers to realize that they needed to make one small change. Now, one small change was they really needed a reliable guy in the backfield that could do it and do it all. And they have that in Christian McCaffrey. And that was the thing that was missing because they were running the ball, but they let Raheem Mostert go and all this other stuff kind of happened. So the running game this season wasn't that great. And now it's great with Christian McCaffrey, who can also pass, who can also catch the ball out of the backfield. And we know that Jimmy G loves to dump off for security blankets to his running backs. It's going to be great. I think the 49ers are the 4th best team in football. And I think right behind them are the Dallas Cowboys. I hear your Minnesota Vikings. I just, as a Packers fan, can't put them in the top 5. It's my bias. So
you have our titles in purple. What are you doing?
This is pink, sir. It was last month was October. All right. Even if it was purple, October is breast cancer awareness month. It's also domestic violence awareness month. That's why I changed the logos to pink/purple. You know, I care about the women in the world. I think they deserve to have people that speak up for them. So.
It looks a little purplish to me. So
it does. It does look a little. That's because StreamYard sucks, and that's also because you're old and your vision's not that great. So before we get out of here, let's talk about MVPs. Emmett, we'll start with you. Damn it! I wish Steve was here.
You know who it's not.
It's
not Geno Smith. I'll tell you that. I will start off and say it's not Geno Smith. I will put that out there. Good. You know what?
That's a man with a straight head on his shoulders, no screws loose. Jeez.
But for me, it's between 2 guys. It's Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. And for me, although he lost in their matchup, I think Patrick Mahomes currently is the MVP. We know at the end of the day that although wins are important, stats are more important. Stats combined with wins are fantastic. And Patrick Mahomes has 1 more touchdown and 1 less interception. And even with that, he lost his wide receiver 1 this offseason. He lost his best wide receiver. His best pass catcher is still there with Travis Kelce. But he's doing it with, I think, what everyone kind of looked at as sort of the scraps of the free agent market, of the draft market, of even the trade market, if you really want to look at it. Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling were looked at as very solid 2s. MVS maybe on the lower end of 2s. But they're 2s, and they have both stepped in. And although Juju has started to look good recently, it's not like they're putting up fantastic stats. They drafted Sky Moore, who I know that they wanted, but he was looked at as more of the lower end of the wide receivers. We saw 6 wide receivers, I believe, go in the first round, 5 or 6 wide receivers go in the first round of the draft. And then even in the early second round of the draft, we saw obviously the Packers take Christian Watson. We saw George Pickens go. We saw Alec Pierce go. So they kind of got the scraps in the wide receiver market there too. And then they're getting the man that the Giants didn't want, or maybe that he didn't want the Giants. They got Kadarius Toney. They added him. So they're kind of doing what I think is they're doing what I kind of think is they kind of scrapped together and put together a very solid wide receiver core. But with the loss of Tyreek Hill, I think what Patrick Mahomes is doing is still stellar. Again, although he did lose that game to Josh Allen, I think that Patrick Mahomes has been the best quarterback in football. I think you could make the argument that he's been that. Although Rodgers has his past 2 MVP years, you could make the argument that he's been that since the time he came into the NFL in 2018. And with Tyreek Hill, I didn't see any drop-off. They still have, I believe, the top scoring offense in all of football. Yards-wise, they're not going to rack up a massive amount of yards. They don't really run the ball a whole lot, although I think they can when they want to. But for me, it's Patrick Mahomes. I think it could be incredibly close. I think if you see the Bills wind up getting, go on a late run and wind up getting the 1 seed, maybe it's Josh Allen. But currently, I think it's Patrick Mahomes.
Justin.
I want to agree with Emmett, right? Stats matter and stats with wins are great. The thing is why you want to lean towards Josh Allen. The problem is, again, the matchups do matter. You did play each other and Josh Allen did come out on top. Not that Patrick Mahomes dropped the ball in that football game. And on top of that, as much as Patrick Mahomes has one less interception and one more touchdown, Josh Allen is not playing fourth quarters. The team is absolutely obliterating everyone else. It's not been close. This guy is sitting down after what 2.5 quarters and watching his backup play. That is how dominant this team is. And I talked earlier about the impact that Micah Parsons has on the floor. On the other side, you can argue that that's the same thing with Josh Allen. We saw that as Green Bay Packers. Yeah, I'm going to make this a Josh. I'm going to make this a Joe Barry rant right about now.
Please give you the show. Oh, wait. I'm going to give you the solo game for this.
Thank you so very much. I don't know for the life of me how you play a Buffalo Bills team with Josh Allen as a quarterback and do not start the game with a spy at your middle linebacker. How do you not spy this guy? This guy in Josh Allen is so, I don't want to say, what's the word that we talk about with Steph Curry? Everything revolves around him. You have to keep your eyes on him at all times. How do you not leave a spy in? Guys, watch the second half of that. Those 2 interceptions against Green Bay in the second half do not come by coincidence or surprise. The moment that he started to spy Josh Allen and he exited the pocket but couldn't break contain because someone is there waiting, then he had to find something to do with the football and 2 interceptions came. It is not a shocker. But, I mean, that is the sort of impact that he has. And I like to talk about impact. This guy blows up teams. This guy, his arm strength is incredible. His accuracy is just improving by season. And the fact that what he does with his legs, he's hurdling defenders. Cornerbacks don't even dare to tackle this dude. They're not coming up the line of scrimmage to do that. You have middle linebackers that are even second guessing. Do I want that stiff arm in the middle of my chest? I know I'm talking about, extracurricular stuff, but the impact that Josh Allen has, I will say, on the offensive end, outside of Lamar Jackson, the guy who means the most to his team right now, again, outside of Lamar Jackson, I'm going to say is Josh Allen. So for me, because he beat Patrick Mahomes in that head-to-head matchup, they have the most wins in the AFC. And I mean, the storyline that we went to this season saying Josh Allen's going to win the MVP, so just give the man the damn MVP and let's move along.
I so desperately want to sing the praises of Jalen Hurts and say he's the MVP because he's been playing really good football, and Jalen Hurts is Justin likes to bully me about who I dub as my guys. Jalen Hurts is one of my guys, and he's been one of my guys since he got the starting job last season. Jalen Hurts has been playing really good football, and he's been doing it in a way that no one thought he could, right? He's been spreading the wealth for A.J. Brown. He's spreading the wealth to Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert had himself a day last night. I know it's against the Houston Texans, but still, great game for Dallas Goedert, right? Miles Sanders has been doing great. And look, I know that Tyreek Hill right now is probably leading the odds for Offensive Player of the Year. But I think we should show some love to A.J. Brown as well because he has been playing incredible football this season. He's been playing phenomenal. He has more yards himself than the entire Tennessee Titans wide receiver corps has as a whole. It's been great. You know who hasn't been doing good as wide receiver on his new football team? Devontae Adams. And I need to start seeing Fox executives and Fox graphics makers. I need to start seeing those graphics again. Y'all was really pressed to show us those graphics in week 1. And it hasn't really been good for the Packers, so maybe not. But there's been some games when the Packers wide receivers have been playing better as a whole than Devontae Adams has been by himself, and I haven't seen those graphics. I think next week I'm just going to do the show by myself and call out all the people I have beef with. And the first 30 minutes of the show is going to be me calling out Steezy. So I'm sick. Steezy's been ducking me ever since I told him that the Broncos are going to go 8-9 and be last in the division, and they weren't a Super Bowl contender. He has not atoned for his sins. I didn't forget about it because you did too, Justin. But you're here, so
I'm here, and I'm here to face music.
So we'll talk about that
another time. No one could foresee how bad that Russ and Nathaniel Hackett would be in a combination.
All of you, all offseason, that they would be terrible together. No one wants. Look, I don't know if it's because it's my age. I don't know if it's because I'm loud. I don't know if it's because I'm a little bit obnoxious because my attention span is kind of shoddy. But you people are going to start listening to me. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But this is like the 4th time in 2 years, Justin, that I've been right. And you've been wrong.
How do you pair Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson together and get this offense? Like how?
Maybe
I think because
Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett don't have the same offensive game plan, and I wonder who told you this. Oh wait, that was me. It was me. Anyway, you're here to atone for your sins, so I won't jump down your throat about this today. Steezy A. Smith is not here, and because he's not here, when I see him, we're going at it. We're talking about Denver. We're talking about this Geno Smith love. Can you? Hey, listen. I appreciate the love for your football team. I get it. 2 posts a day about the Seattle Seahawks is a bit much. And can we stop with this narrative that Tariq Woolen is the defensive rookie of the year? Because he's not. He's not. It's Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner's been the defensive rookie of the year since week 1, and it's not even close. But anyway, and then I appreciate you again for just letting the world know that I put Steezy in a body bag.
It was.
Either way, I'm on the East Coast. You guys are on the West. So Steezy's up at like 11 o'clock at night doing this. I'm on the edge of my couch at 2:45 in the morning, half sleep, watching Grey's Anatomy, defending myself because Steezy wants to tag me in a Pro Football Focus post. Hey, listen, I get it. That sounds good. This is the same group in Pro Football Focus that 2 weeks ago tried to tell us that the New York Giants are the worst team in football. So I don't even know how much weight you want to give Pro Football Focus saying that Geno
and especially it was like the deep passing grade, especially to me. I don't know. It didn't make any sense. Like I like their advanced stats. I use those. The grades I don't use because I think it was a couple weeks ago. It was before this week, obviously. Whenever Rodgers was really having that dry spell on deep passes, and they still had him as like a top 10 graded deep passer. I'm like, so you're not watching the games. I'm like, okay, like that's what you're telling me. So what do I put more stock into? Touchdowns, like you were talking, or deep passing grade? I'm going to put more in touchdowns.
I mean, that's what. Look, Steezy, we love you. Come here. Look, the last time I talked to Steezy on the show, he told me that there are some hills that you don't die on. And if I'm going to die on this hill, then it's going to be in vain. Listen, Steezy, it's time for you to come die on these hills so that your death is not in vain. Like I can't do this with you. I don't want to keep arguing with you on Twitter. I don't want to keep arguing with you on Instagram. I want you here on Go Talk Mark. You want me to come to your show? You want to come here? You want to find some new? You want to duke it out on Justin's show? You want to come to the boat where all your friends can jump on me? That's fine. I already have beef with Noah Squabo, who I texted happy birthday and didn't say thank you. Noah, you big meanie. Congratulated him for signing a 2-year TV deal. Didn't say thank you, you big bully. I'll come wherever you want me to go. You want me to go to 32-bit TV? Great production. I'll go there. You want me to go to Press Sports? I don't know if you still do that, but if you do, you have a lot of stuff going on Tuesday. Shout out to you, but still, wherever you want me to go, I'll go. You name the time, the place. You want to go to the moon? We go to the moon. You want me to catch a flight to Seattle? We can do it in your living room. We can do it there. Wherever you want me to be, Steezy, that's where I'll be. You're not avoiding this smoke. You're not. I'm telling you, it's up and it's stuck. But seriously, I wish I could say that Jalen Hurts is the MVP right now because the team is 8-0. He's been playing really good football. And quiet as kept, Jalen Hurts, as a starter in the regular season, has not lost a football game. That goes back to last season when he got the nod for the starting job. He has not lost a football game as a starter. So big props to Jalen Hurts. But it's Josh Allen. Josh Allen's been playing incredible. I think when you look at it, again, even though, like you said, Justin, even though that Pat does have the one more touchdown and the one less interception, Josh Allen did outplay Pat Mahomes in their head-to-head matchup in Week 6 in Arrowhead, which means a lot. And that was a really big game for Buffalo because last time Buffalo was in Arrowhead, obviously they lost that game in heartbreaking fashion in overtime. So Josh Allen's been being great. This was not on the cards for the show, but it's something I want to talk about before we go because I think it's really important. Okay. We've all recognized, he doesn't look like it so far this season, it's not his fault, but we've all recognized that Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver in football. right? We all recognize that. And we all acknowledge, like you mentioned that Mike Evans is top 10. We all acknowledge that we thought that maybe Justin Jefferson, this was going to be the year that Justin Jefferson takes the crown. A lot of people wanted to put Cooper Kupp at number 1. I got crucified in the offseason for saying that Stephon Diggs is the third best receiver in football behind Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson. Can we start giving Stephon Diggs his love and the love that he deserves? Because Stephon Diggs has been playing incredible football this season, as has Gabe Davis. But Stephon Diggs has looked great since he's been to Buffalo, but specifically this season. Like, when are we going to start giving Stephon Diggs his flowers and his props? Because Stephon Diggs has been the best receiver in football, not named Tyreek Hill. And it hasn't even been marginally close. Like, he has been incredible this season. And when we go back on the drawing board and we do all our rankings again, I need more apologies for all the people that laughed at me when I said that Stephon Diggs was the top 3 receiver in football, because he's incredible. Is he not a top 3 receiver in football?
He's top 3. He's top 3. You take a look. He's leading in touchdowns. The only other people who are close is A.J. Brown and Jamar Chase, and Jamar's not going to be able to catch him because Jamar's hurt. Tyreek Hill, again, is probably the only player who's having a better season statistically on everything outside, everything other than touchdowns.
And honestly, the reason why Tyreek Hill's touchdown numbers aren't where they are is because Tua missed 2 games. If Tua doesn't miss 2 games, Tyreek Hill's leading the league in touchdowns.
And you can also make the argument that, like, Stephon Diggs, yeah, Gabe Davis he's a cool number 2. He's a very good, like, deep explosive threat. Yeah. But, like, Jalen Waddle has poached some Tyreek Hill touchdowns for sure. Like, Jalen Waddle has 5. Yeah. So I 100%. He's Stephon Diggs, easily top 3. I think maybe even by the end of the season, we're looking at him challenging Devontae for that number 1 spot.
Sure. There's not a route on the route tree Stephon Diggs can't run. There's not a corner he can't face. Here's another thing. Oh, Joe Barry. I'm getting sick of. Why is Jair Alexander not shadowing the number 1 receiver on the other team?
Well, they get in this dumb, like, mindset because they honestly, here's what I think happened after the Commanders game.
On Stephon Diggs?
After the Commanders game, Jair doesn't exactly have the best track record against Stephon Diggs, especially like in Minnesota. However, I still I'll take that over what Rasul Douglas was giving you. But the other thing is just, I think here's what happened, because I think Joe Barry, he's not a very good defensive coordinator, so I don't think he's necessarily. I'm being very nice. He's never been high, and so yeah. I mean, he got his first NFL job because his father-in-law was the head coach. So, or he got his first defensive coordinator job. Either way, I think what happened is they finally let him travel. They let him travel last week against the Commanders, or 2 weeks ago against the Commanders, and Terry McLaurin got hit the best of him 3 times all game. And I think Joe Barry got it in his head. See, that's why I shouldn't have let you travel. That's the wrong approach to do. But I think that's what he was thinking, but it was 100% and totally wrong. You should have seen that after the first 2 drives of the game. I have no idea. Joe Barry the Packers won't fire him in season, and that's part of the reason why I think they're probably cooked for the rest of the year. The fact that they should let him go. Should have let him go.
Season. There's nothing wrong. So
nothing.
Justin's old and he's married and it's past his bedtime. Emmett, I appreciate you for hopping on late night. I'm telling you, Steezy A. Smith,
ducking.
You will not hear the end of me. I'm looking for you. I am actively seeking you out. I called you out on the rundown last week. I've called you out now on Go Totally Marcus. And every time I text Steezy and say, can he come on, he gives me excuses. That's not true. Steezy is in the process of getting his life together because he did just, he's been making some moves and stuff. But I respect it. But for the sake of the narrative of the world of podcasting, I'm looking for you. I'm going to hunt you down. And when I find you, Steezy, you can come in here dressed to the nines with your Joseph A. Banks suit on and your cut and your shave, tie or no tie. You can have it unbuttoned like your Chippendales. I'll come here with my t-shirt and my hoodie on, with my glasses on, with my hair brushed, okay? Got the 2 ring lights here so you can see me, all right? And we're going to do this. Whether it's on this show, whether it's on the C-Team pod, whether it's on Instagram Live, whether it's on thisJUSTin, whether it's on what other shows are there, whether it's on Stuff About Sports, JT and the Don, like wherever you want to do it, we can do it in the street. It doesn't matter. I am looking for you, Steezy A. Smith, because you keep calling me out. And you keep calling me out when you want to. You don't answer my calls. But I always answer your calls. What Justin said earlier, I keep writing you, and you're just not writing back. And I need to know why, Steezy, you're not writing me back. I love you. We're homies. We're friends. You got the number. You can call. You can text. You can FaceTime. You can Twitter. You can look. No, I want you here on StreamYard, live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch for the world to see, because I'm sick of it. I am sick of you. You keep calling me out for your Seahawk fan friends and your Seahawk fan commentators and your Seahawk fan followers, who I love, by the way, because they watch my show too sometimes. I love all of you. But you keep calling me into hostile territory, and I show up. Sometimes I lose. Sometimes I don't. But I show up. Steezy, where you at, bro?
Is this a definition of on-site? Is this what we
100%
on-site? On-site.
1,000%. There's no, we have exceeded the limits of cordial text messages. I'm calling you out every week from here on out, bro. I need you on this show. I need you split screen here with me. Go talk overlay or no overlay. I need you here, pre-recorded or live, sun up or sundown. Don't matter where. I need you here. Like we can't keep doing it. Like you're not going to keep calling me out at 3:00 in the morning on Twitter, bro. You're not. I can't do it. I need you here when I'm fully look.
And if you're not waiting for this Dwayne Marcus and Stevie A. Smith matchup, you can come and find me on hashtag #thisJUSTin. Please put the hashtag. We don't want to be taken to Matt Kellerman and his cold takes. That is hashtag #thisJUSTin.
My takes are bad. Super bad.
I don't even watch him anymore. There's only one good show on ESPN now, and that's Get Up. I know it's not good anymore because no, they're putting Stephen A. Smith at the back end of Get Up. I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? Like, you're good with Greeny, and you're good with oh my god, what names failing me right now? Dan and
RC and Dan Orlovsky and Swagoo and all them.
And oh my god, and Rex Ryan, you have a great show. There's no need to put Stephen A. Smith on the back end of your show. Like, don't do that. But yeah, every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, right before Monday Night Football kickoff, you can come and find us live on YouTube. That is 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. For short form content, because we are not exactly a podcast, you can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. But put that, see, where is it? There. That hashtag in front of the #thisJUSTin, hashtag #thisJUSTin.
Emmett, plug your show, bro.
Yeah, at the C Team Pod on Instagram, Twitter, and of course on YouTube, live on YouTube, 10:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesdays and Thursdays or the Wednesday wrap up, which I think is at Wed Wrap Up on Instagram and TikTok. On Wednesdays at around 6-ish p.m. That one's a lot more loose than, of course, the Bolt. But for me, at Emmett J. Savoras on Instagram and Twitter.
I got to get Emmett on the show. We're going to do that next Monday.
Let's do it. Hey, let's do it. I enjoy the all-Packer lineup. It feels a lot less hostile than the Bolt does, where it's me versus 3 Seahawks fans. That is, it's a rough.
Bro,
it's rough.
Y'all are gonna stop jumping. Hold on. I need to make this crystal clear to all of you. I need to make this crystal clear to all of you. I love Steezy. Steezy's great. He's a great human being. He's good at what he does. He's a hard worker. I don't want to keep going back and forth with Steezy on Twitter. I don't want to keep going back and forth with Steezy in his comments with all of his 12s. I want Steezy here on this show. You're going to go to the Bolt? I go to the Bolt. I go to your show. I go to Press Sports. I go to 32-Bit TV. You do anywhere you want. I just want Steezy A. Smith on this show. Steezy, it's time for you to meet your maker. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not your maker. But like seriously. Seriously. I'm Justin's here. Look, and again, and this is what's making me, I'm not angry, but I'm just saying. Emmett, he's here. I feel it's Steezy. I think you're ducking me, bro. And I don't like being ducked, because when I'm being ducked, now I got to come find you. And I have to come find you. I don't want to have to come find you, bro.
So tell us how you really feel then.
Just come to the show. Bro, you follow me on Instagram at GGP Markets. You follow me on Twitter at GGP Markets. You follow me on TikTok at GGP Markets. You know where to find me on YouTube. Go Talk Markets. Spotify. Go Talk Markets. Apple Podcast. Go Talk Markets. iHeartRadio. Go Talk Markets. You have my number. I'm not going to
So you're saying you want Stevie A. Smith then?
I want Steezy. Do you remember? Have you guys seen Rocky? Do you remember in Rocky? I think it was Rocky 1. When Apollo Creed dressed up as Uncle Sam and he pointed at the camera, he was like, "I want you." Yeah, I want you, Stevie A. Smith. Seriously, I want Stevie A. Smith on this show before the end of November. I want that. I want that. I gave you until the end of October. I'm being nice. If Steezy's not here by the end of November to atone for his sins and meet me face to face, we're gonna have a problem. Not a real problem. That's my guy. But like, we're gonna have a problem if I can't get Steezy on this show. Because you keep calling me out and you keep trying to drag me into hostile territory, and I show up at 3:00 in the morning, have sleep, watching Grey's Anatomy.
Not me. I'm too old for that.
Do it. See, I'm locked in though. I'm locked. Had to pause the show and everything. It got real crazy last night at 3:00 in the morning. I was standing up in front of the TV with my arms folded, all type of stuff. Anyway,
Oh no, I have to go because my wife is calling me for dinner, so I don't know.
No, you go eat. We're done here. You guys, thank you for watching. Emmett, thank you for hopping in. Justin, it's been way too long. I appreciate you for coming back. Hopefully, I'll get on thisJUSTin soon.
Whenever y'all got time, Emmett, Monday night if you're free, it's set at 6 p.m. Central.
It's always
I'll
a
let you know.
to have these gentlemen on the show. I don't know who's going to be here next week, but when I find out, you guys will find out. I don't know we're going to be talking next week, but when I find out, you guys will find out. Thank you guys for watching. Follow on all the socials. And as always, you guys enjoy the rest of your life.